I wanted a quick and easy way of checking Morse tapers. I'm not going to go into why, it's all in the description, blah blah blah, but I come up with this design. You simply slide it up the shaft and it gets between 3 and 8 millimeters from the end, and it should, if it's the correct size hole, tell you what Morse taper it is. Very easy, very simple, very quick, something you can just put in the drawer afterwards. Job done. So I set about using Fusion 360 to design my little idea formulated in my my tiny little brain. Now, one thing I do need to say is that I am not an expert in Fusion 360 by any means. I've been using it for about a year now, and like most of the things I do, I'm never going to be an expert in anything because I do so many different little things and I'm always trying to learn new things. So I'm never going to master them, but I can get okay at them. And Fusion 360 is that. I mean, this thing took me about 25 minutes. In hindsight, I could probably now do it in about 5 minutes now I've done it. But it's knowing all the tricks and where to move things and how to move things sometimes, and how to group them. It's easier said than done. So what I've done here is I started off by laying out 6 holes, 0 to 6 Morse taper. Unlikely to ever see a 7, so I couldn't be bothered with that, and 4.5 is very rare, so I didn't bother with that either. So the basic 0 to 6 Morse tapers. So I've had the sizes, drew out the circles, then it was just a matter of using lines and ties and measurements to try and group them together and make it look presentable, like a decent looking tool. I mean, it's only like it's only going to be a little bit of 3mm 3D printed plastic with holes in, but it's a tool that I'm going to put in the drawer and I'm going to keep because it's a handy little tool. So the gauge, I've lined up the edges, and I keep making a few little mistakes about moving bits and pieces. So some of this I'm going to fast forward. You might not be particularly interested in the 3D print kind of side or the design side. But like for instance, I shouldn't have tied in the first circle to the origin because it just made everything a little bit awkward, and in the end I just release it so everything floats. And another thing that I did was I wanted to move some of the circles on the left hand side up and down, so I then messed around, broke the tangents I made, and I didn't need to. I could have just slid them up and down the line over the top of one another. It's just stupid the way that I did it, but again, it's one of those things you just learn or don't learn or forget. So what I'm doing here is lines and distance in between some of the larger circles, just so I know I've got some meat in between them and that it doesn't change inadvertently while I'm not looking, because they do that all on their own. So once everything was in the right place and I was happy with it and it was looking good, I then wanted to add an extra edging, flesh it out a bit. There's no point in having a circle right on the edge of the plastic, you're just going to break it. So what I did was used the offset tool, and I went to each corner circle adding the offset, and I put 2mm I think it was on, and I joined those 4 up with straight lines. So once the lines were in place, I tied everything in and made sure everything was set. That gave me the basic shape then. Following that, extrude it. 3mm I thought was about decent size, strong enough not to be too fragile. So I extruded that 3mm, and the next step was to put some numbers on it, obviously 0 to 6. And as you might spot, and somebody else spotted on one of the forums, that I got the 5 and 6 back to front. So the later version corrected that. Now the first version, I regressed the numbers about 0.5 mm, but when I came to use it, I could hardly make out the numbers, very difficult to read. So I've later version, which I haven't printed out yet, I'm just about to print out, and probably you will see a picture of that in person at the end of this video. I lifted them up 5mm, so I've extruded them 5mm on the top, so hopefully they will look a bit better. For sure this looks a bit better, I mean, on the mock-up, and I've got some pictures coming up. I'm actually currently printing the other bit, so I might slide a couple of pictures in at the end. So this is the revised version, but I still haven't done the 5 and 6 around the correct way. And this was the first version, yeah, this is the first version. And now this is the fully revised version, and that's how it came out. All in all, very pleased with the finish. Now I know if you're a machinist, you'll spot a Morse taper and you'll know exactly what it is, but for people that aren't round particular size Morse tapers every day, it might not be too apparent for them. So this is real easy to use. But anyway, short video I know. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da.